All right, welcome everyone to episode 9 of Poetside Chats. Right now I have your boy, your poet, say your name?
Professor Troy.
Professor Troy. For those of you who are longtime fans of the channel, longtime viewers, you've definitely seen him on at least 2 occasions because, well, he pretty much was a finalist in both Youngblood poetry contests. And on the second try, he wasn't just a finalist, he actually won the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? So the man is a poet among poets, but he's also a phenomenal educator. And I'm going to read his bio real quick just so you can get to know him before we begin. Mr. Troy McAdams is a tenured educator who has taught in the United States of America, China, and around the world. His love for poetry was ignited by a pair of creative writing courses at California State University, where he majored in literature and writing with a minor degree in Spanish language and culture. He published his first poem, La Vida Lucha, The Life of Struggle, in the university creative writing booklet in 2008. He honed his craft each Friday at the university dorms at open mic night. While others were performing, he feverishly wrote bars that reflected life, faith, and hope that he would then perform. Poetry is his passion and superpower that comes out from time to time and for specific individuals on special occasions. He currently works as a grade 5 homeroom teacher in Beijing, China, where he resides with his wife and daughter. They are active in the international ministry and share their home to fellowship and uplift others. Lastly, they have an international nonprofit named TKM-The Kingdom Mission, which coordinates education, community, and local governance to facilitate education initiatives that uplift the community by equipping the underprivileged with a life of purpose. Professor Troy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Youngblood. It's good to be here. Thanks for making this happen. I know you have a lot of hats and a lot of responsibilities, but I know this is your passion, so I'm excited to be on.
Yeah, and this is more than worth it. Like, a lot of folks don't know that outside of the contest submissions that you made, we've been in constant communication with each other, either through email or Instagram, just uplifting one another, encouraging each other on our journeys. And so you've actually become a dear friend of mine, I would certainly say, in ways that I wish I could explain to folks watching, but they'll just have to take my word for it,
Yeah, for sure, for sure. This is a mutual beneficial thing where we can edify one another. And I mean, I learned from your breakdowns of poetry bars, and hopefully you can learn a little bit by what I do in my life as well.
Oh, man. That means so much, especially coming from you, a phenomenal poet. For starters, can you tell us about your journey to becoming the poet and educator that you are today?
Sure. As you mentioned in the bio, like I wouldn't consider myself a poet growing up, but the gift of words was always kind of inside of me, and the education experience has helped kind of develop that gift over time. Growing up, my only exposure to poetry was maybe English language arts class, ELA class, different kinds of cultures and different kinds of poetry styles. And then my father, who wrote special Japanese haikus, which basically just have a 5-7-5 syllable count scheme. And it was more like saltine crackers. It was something, but not something amazing. But I appreciated his effort and his love to put words to the page. So bless him. He can get some of the credit for starting like the boldness to put poetry out there.
Yeah.
And then as you also asked about Educator, I grew up in San Diego, grew up in California, graduated from California State University, and I always kind of knew teaching was a thing, but I didn't know really how to make a career of it. There was like teaching programs, but I really didn't feel like I fit the mold. So even though I studied education as like a minor, and once I graduated, I decided to go to China and get my master's degree in education, where I taught as an English language arts teacher at the universities, kindergarten, and everything in between. I had a lot of experience at the beginning. So over time and the experiences internationally, I kind of honed my craft and developed like my own methodologies and the way I interact with students and engage them. And so it's really been a lifelong journey to kind of find out who I am and what kind of giftings lend themselves to the education craft. One of them being poetry, but broader sense, words and writing prose is a big thing that I enjoy. So yeah, I try and share it with my students and as much as I can with the world.
Yo, that's really awesome. And when it comes to my parents, they have never even dabbled in poetry. They've never even read Dr. Seuss. Like, I've asked them, do you know who Dr. Seuss is? They're like, I have no idea. You know what I'm saying? Um, with that being said, my mom has always been an educator at heart. She does not have a teaching certification or anything like that. But throughout like middle school, high school, college, I mean, even now as a nurse practitioner, she will educate nursing
Mhm.
students. You know what I'm saying? Like she'll have these like private tutoring
Right.
courses and stuff like that. So from a very young age, I saw what it was like to excel as an educator. And eventually I started picking that up myself, where today I'm actually teaching in a community college here in Houston, Texas. It's like a poetry workshop. So I'm not like an official professor or anything like that. One day that's gonna happen. You know, I'm following
Yeah,
after
come
the
on.
steps. Exactly. But for now, I'm definitely exercising that passion, and I can definitely relate when I say it's when you say it's awesome to, you know, uplift others through education and stuff. For real, it's it's a real blessing to bless others that way. Next question: what led you to start the international nonprofit, the Kingdom Mission, and how does it use education to uplift communities?
Sure. So when we moved to China in 2009, we started attending an international fellowship. And I've always had an interest in going to the world and cultures and languages. And I'd been going to Mexico for like 20 years beforehand with my grandfather. And so they had opportunities to go to inland China and then India and Southeast Asia. And so they had all these opportunities and we jumped on board. This was the year we first got there. So we had been to India, we'd been to Korea in the first couple of years. And so in 2011, after we were married, we went to Ghana through a contact that we had at the international church. And we went to the Volta region, which is like a border with Togo. And like we saw just the need and the thirst for education. Like we had done this 3-day camp, we call it TKM camp, which is like an education English camp. And there was basically 300 students because they had advertised on radio and going around the community in a truck with a loudspeaker. And so we're like, well, we don't have chairs, but for like 80 students. So we had handed out tickets, right? And so what had happened was they were supposed to come back with a specific number or color of ticket they had been given, like 100 each day. Well, the first day, 135 came back with tickets, and like, how is this possible? Like, we gave out 100 tickets, so they had ripped their ticket in half and given to their friend so that they could get in too. And so we were given this English camp and like just enjoying like activities and exercises, songs, games, things like this. And even while we're going, the kids that couldn't get in, there was like a thatched like fence around, and just like the friends bringing the paralytic to Jesus in the roof, they were peeling away the thatched they'd peeling away the thatched fence so that they could see inside and see what was going on. So like we
Uh,
realized like, wow, like education is not like something that's so easily given in a lot of places in the world, and we shouldn't take advantage of it. But if we can provide opportunity for more kids to get an education, not just in ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, but like purpose and like skills and like my life is valuable and I have something to contribute to the world. If we can ignite that fire, man, that's what TKM is all about. And so like since then we've just grown kind of we built a school in Ghana, West Africa. We have another school site in Albania that we're trying to get off the ground. And so we're just looking for opportunities to really seed into the next generation in education initiatives and working with local governance and regional NGOs and international donors to make that happen.
Hey, yo, that's really awesome. And viewers out there, I'm going to be linking TKM Mission like in the description. So definitely check that out, whether you want to support, donate, or just learn more about, you know, what their mission is and all that. Definitely check it out. Okay. Trust me, you won't regret it. All right. Next
Appreciate it.
question. What is your style of poetry like, and what are some common themes in your work?
So I would call it freestyle because I don't go into it like having a specific rhyme scheme or having a specific, like, I want to do this or I want to use this kind of analogy or comparison or alliteration. It's kind of just like flows from my heart. So usually inspired by a context or a theme. Contextually relevant, maybe like for a birthday or an anniversary. I like to bring it out for people. And sometimes it's out of struggle where I'm struggling with an idea and a passion. I might sketch or I might just start writing lines that kind of express where my heart is and try and figure out, what's going on in my spirit. And so I decided maybe I could share a couple poems here, and Kendrick, you can break it down if you want, or let the people, kind of glean what they will. But I'll give you my first poem that was published called La Vida Lucha, which I published at Cal State University. And this was kind of like me feeling out this Hispanic culture of kind of what I was around in Southern California and my trips to Mexico. And there was a very famous song called La Vida Loca, which is like the crazy life and partying. It was a real hot beat. And I was like, it's not all like bubbles and roses. So let me write one that represents struggle. So here it goes. La Vida Lucha. He stood silently, cornered. Life had brought him to the crossroads. Truth seared his skin, standing silently. The darkness oppressed Jose. The sun burnt his body. Comfort was unattainable, much like the dreams of his youth. He was a man afloat. Life carried Jose. Necessity begged his patience. His family required his income. His Lord begged long-suffering. Jose begged for work, and work he did. But the process was laborious. The process was mechanical. Grinding, shifting, labeling. When did man become machine? When did the machine make man?
Yo.
And so that was just to express like the struggle, man, and like people going through just to make ends meet so their family can eat.
Wow.
Oof. And then let me give you one I wrote a couple years ago for my wife's birthday, just to, you know, appreciate her. Because like people write cheesy stuff online, like roses are red, violets are blue, and like if God's giving you a gift to express, like come on, bless people with it.
Yeah.
Here we go. This is for my wife Kay. When wisdom met truth, a story no man could write, a grace no wrong could right, a union ordained by a bishop and a reverend, a passion justified by global offspring, christened, a truth reckoned. The eyes to see, the ears to hear, the heart to believe, with patience to cheer. With careful preparation, the ant doesn't fear the winter, nor a COVID year. It's clear, child, lend your ear, for she shouts aloud in the streets. At the city gate she cries. Her voice is loud, her words are sharp, yet she illuminates the truth as light in the dark. She's a spark, a kindled grace, a chance to embark on a life of faith, a path unknown, yet an ark secure. Her hands are steadfast, her heart is pure. The Lord is at work, she knows this full well. Her story is written by the Father, custom built. Her journey is steady, her face like flint, facing adversity with a peace heaven sent. She manages her family like a Fortune 500. International global community kindred. Nothing left unsaid, a life, the red letters speak of a life lived better, a forerunner, a pace setter. This is do or die. This is real life. This is my Kay, amazing wife. She is elite. She is my rib. She is my helpmeet. My heartbeat, my confirmation from the Father, my receipt, proof of life, proof of love, proof that wisdom can reside in one woman from above. If Solomon was the wisest man that ever lived, then KTM is the wisest lady God could give. Better in person than data on a spreadsheet. She is not milk chocolate. She's special dark, bittersweet. If I am the rudder, the runner, then she is the whole, the Gatling gunner. She is lit and she is lovely. She stays up late, making sure the CEO has the money. She prepares the crew for launch. She supports the house with a Midas touch, keeping all wheels balanced, all gears on go. She makes the way forward viable. My love is possessed. I am deeply impressed by this woman who is truly blessed. Who am I to deserve this prize, this priceless crown jewel given at the Father's behest? One day, I pray, become equal to this kingdom crest.
Yo. Oh my God. Song of Solomon 2.0.
Let's go.
Oh, man. That right there is a poem, man. Wow.
Yes. So maybe they can glean and tell me what my rhyme scheme is and tell me what my word choice is. But like when I'm writing, it's just like feeling it and like, okay, that's that. Okay, how's this work? This word go with this. Okay. But really, I'm not like trying to like emulate any style, you know?
Yeah. Wow. The ending of your first poem really hit me because you utilized a poetry technique I don't often see used, and it's called chiasmus. That's where you have a phrase and then you reverse the phrase right after. So you said something like, when did man become machine? And then you said like, when did machine make man? You said something like that, right? Yeah, like the reversal of the order between man and machine. That poetic technique, although it's not like super hard to do, I don't often see it done in poetry. And so when it's done, it's always like, yes, you know what I mean? It's a great way to end the poem for sure. Yeah.
Thanks.
Oof. Okay, that blessed me. I know it blessed everyone else too. How do you incorporate poetry into the English language arts course that you teach?
Sure. I try and bring it in because I know it's a gifting I have. And like I mentioned before, like I want to share this with my students. So sometimes I teach a rhyme unit. especially during like holiday weeks or weeks at the end of the year. I teach like a unit of rhyme, teaching basic rhyme themes, using rhyme banks. So choosing a word that means something to the poem and then creating a bank of words that when they're thinking of their next line, they can pull from that bank. It's a very simple kind of style using homophones, homonyms, and breaking down like what are they trying to communicate. Like it's not just can you make a sentence, it's like can you make a sentence that links with your theme or can that makes sense with what you're trying to say. I really believe every bar must have meaning, like not just sound good. A lot of songs in modern and popular music is just like, oh, this sound good, the beat go hard, but really like what are you saying? And so I really try and like not just make catchy in the words that I use, but really deliver like life-giving messages, or at least for kids, like purpose-driven messages is like, what are you trying to say with this and what effect does it have towards your theme? So I teach them basic stuff so that they have like some basic framework, even mental framework. So when they're trying to say something has more meaning. Maybe some of them, they wrote like amazing, like 4-line poem, and some of them didn't catch anything except make it meaningful. And if they incorporate that into their prose and their essays, then I'm happy to.
Oh, well said. How do you balance being both an ELA educator and a poet?
Well, as you know, I'm a full-time educator, so I work to make my lessons relevant and the curriculum plan like in line so the students can learn. I want to make everything educational, but also like engaging, right? So I'm trying to develop and interact with my students. And the poet inside of me like wants to make things like more beautiful, like more meaningful, like more sound good, feel good, like this. So I try and balance that. And really, I'm more of like a poet uh during my like writing sessions, and but I'm more like an educator by day and like a poet by night. So like I rise to the occasion for whether it's birthday, anniversary, a competition online. Like I can write, it's in me. But during the day, like I'm just like an educator. Like people don't know I write poetry unless I wear my Poet Life shirt or unless they've received one of my poems and like, yeah, he can write. And it's people like, write something, write something. I'm like, I'm not just writing something just because you want me to write something, but I have the gift. So I'll show it when it's time. So it's kind of like, I'm not trying to be a poet. I'm not trying to be an educator. I am an educator who is also a poet. And those who know, you know.
Hey, that's what's up. I'm gonna start saying that. I like that because, like, even me, I'm a healthcare professional,
Mhm.
but I'm also a poet, and having to juggle the two is quite interesting, I would say. And someone will always hit you with the, "Oh, you're a poet. Spit something, say something, or write something." I'm like, "Yo, you can't just put me on the spot like that. That ain't how it works." Like
Right.
if there was a magician, but like they weren't set up or anything, and you told them like, "Oh, you're a magician, do a trick." They'll be like, I don't got my cards on me or nothing.
About that. Yeah, about that.
Yeah. So, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So it's real funny how that happens, but I think you do a great job of balancing both, I would certainly say. What are some similarities and differences between teaching in America versus teaching in China?
Definitely, like in China, I'd say the student and the education culture, like study culture, is deep and it's like historically rooted. So students are much more like respectful in general. Now, don't get me wrong, international schools, you've got kids with money who think that money will solve every problem and will answer all things, which in some ways it does, but in some ways it gives the kids more of like a Western edge. But traditionally, like a very honoring culture of education and of teachers. Like we get gifts that we're not supposed to get gifts. Like by law, you can't get gifts, but the students' parents will find ways to like give you stuff because they really appreciate you and they're like, you are teaching my kid, you are taking care of my kid, you're setting the direction and being a guide. So like we want to take care of you. And so even parent teacher conferences, like the parents usually don't come in and be like, hey, I heard you did this or said this in class. It's like, hey, tell me how my kid's doing. Are they behaving right? And like, how can we improve their education plan? And so I feel like it's much more purposeful and like directional. In the States, like I've taught in the States for a bit, and it's just, well, sometimes the culture of the classroom is not quite what it should be. The kids are more mouthy and disrespectful. They're grown much younger, and like it sometimes it doesn't feel like the US values education and teachers as much as it could, or maybe it should. And I think when a parent's involved in education, I think it's key, but also like the system that's built around it to help facilitate educators to really guide, strengthen, fortify like students' lives is lacking. And I think that's also why maybe a lot of social organizations in America do so well, is because the school don't hit all the boxes. And so at the end of the day, it's the testing that matters and not necessarily the education of a young man or young woman.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very accurate. I forgot to mention that I also, like, while I was in university, I was a sort of like teaching assistant without the certification once again. Um, and just teaching, like, this was really unique because the people I was teaching were my peers, so to speak. You know, they were also college students like I was at the time. And for that simple fact that like there was a little age gap, even though there was a gap in terms of rank, just
Right.
the age being similar, I mean, people did not respect me whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? And I knew more than them, not to like sound arrogant or anything, but by proxy of having the job, I knew more than they did, but they didn't give me that respect regardless. And so
Yeah.
yeah, I can definitely relate is what I'm trying to say.
Def.
What are some poets that inspire you and why?
All right. So again, not being in the poetry space, more like I became a poet more organically and from like the passion within me. So I've never been like, I mean, I had to read some poetry like units and some books of poetry that had like mini poets in it, and I appreciated them. But like popularly, I really appreciate CHH, like Christian hip hop. So like Indie Tribe, Go Hard, Andy Mineo is crazy with the production and the bars. Lecrae really turned me on to like CHH back in 2010, 2011. And then there's this other artist called Bizzle, and he spits so hard and so much fire that sometimes I can only listen to like one song at a time, and then I have to like just decompress and like figure out what he just said. But
Right.
the way these guys put together their lyrics like is really, it's artistry and it's painting. Basically it's like painting with words and expressing like social truths and higher truths on these like bars. And so I appreciate listening to them and then just kind of meditating on the lyrics. If we're talking poetry, again, I wouldn't go formal poetry. I'd go like spoken word. So you and your channel really opened my eyes to a lot of poets like Red Lion. Come on, man. And then Leek and Chakra. Those guys go hard. And the way they like put together their poems and their presentation, and even the album that Leek and Chakra put together is like bringing it mainstream, man. I appreciate that. I super appreciate that. And I'm not going to be like, even though I might quote like Emerson in my bars, but I do that unconsciously. But these guys are like putting it front and center, and for that, like we should say thank you to this community that you're building, Youngblood. Like you are needed for exposure because people don't know what they don't know, and if you're up here doing reactions to different stuff, they might get hooked on a reaction to a hip hop song or a rap song, but then they listen to another video and they're like, oh, poet spoken word, what is that? And like you're able to expose them to that in a new way. So I'm on the boat with you. I'm on the train with you to like go this new spoken word like elevation of consciousness.
Oh man. Yo, thanks for the high praise, man. I really appreciate it for real, for real. And a part of the reason why, you know, I highlight these artists is because I wish when I was growing up, I saw a channel that was highlighting the artists as well. I mean, there's a lot of people who came to know you for the first time because of, you know, your participation in the contest and stuff.
The guy, like artists you expose us to, like the poets especially, and like the spoken word artists, like I would I would never have known it because a lot of them aren't mainstream. They're not in published like formal books that we're reading in school. So like YouTube's going to be the way, Instagram's going to be the way like we're getting this information. So you're part of what they call the new media, right?
I like the sound of that. All right, I will take it. Yo, so what are some, or actually, who are some artists that you would love to collaborate with in the future and why?
To be honest, like as I said before, I'm like an undercover poet who brings out bars and to bless, inspire, and like offer hope. But like really, I'm not trying to be front and center. I'm not looking for a mic. Like you, the Youngblood poetry contest gave me an opportunity to shine and like a to display my craft. But I'm like happy to share the gift with people who know me and who are close to me and at the appropriate time. But I'm not looking for a stage, man. I'm looking to just use my gift to encourage people, to help people, to bless people. And so man, if someone reach out to me and say, hey, can we do something? Can we write something? I'll be like, let me think on it. Let me meditate on it. And then maybe, but I mean, as far as like putting myself out there, I'm going to be busy working as an educator, helping young people find their purpose in life.
Hey, that's what's up. What an awesome attitude, bro. Ah, man. Okay, what advice would you give to aspiring poets, and what advice would you give to aspiring educators?
I would say for poets, write, write, write. Like just write every day. Give it 30 minutes, give it 45 minutes, an hour. Just write. Practice different themes, practice different topics. If you want to go more formal, practice different rhyme schemes and different like tools and like alliteration and homonyms and entendres. Like if you want to really hone your craft, like just practice all those different things. I mean, you see Harry Mack blowing up because he practiced for 20 years before he ever got a YouTube channel. And people are like, oh, I want to copy that. And like, you can't copy that. That's 20 years of him in the lab, just writing and spitting and writing and spitting. And so I think people don't understand the process and the study and the time it takes just to hone your craft. And so writing is going to get you familiar with words, familiar with your own voice. A lot of times we don't know how we sound or what's inside of us until we put it out there. And then secondly, it goes for poetry and education, like learn under the best, like find the best, or for poetry, maybe the style that you prefer, and just listen to them and learn from them and watch them and figure out how they do what they do. And then you can practice by emulating them and copying them. But at the end of the day, after you've studied them for long enough, I would almost say like, you don't follow them anymore. Why? Because you're not trying to be the second them, you're trying to be the first you. So like focus on what you bring to the table and how your voice sounds. And really, you can study under different people. There might be a season of 5, 6 years or 1, 2 years that you really love this person and you study their stuff and their lyrics and how they sound. But then after that time, like, don't be ashamed to be like, I know you, I'm familiar with you. Now let me really focus on this person because I feel like they feel another area or aspect of my heart and my passion.
Man, and see, I be telling folks that. I'm glad people are hearing it from another face and another voice. Well said, honestly. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with, like, honestly, this is not my quote. It's a quote from the former Houston Poet Laureate, Deborah Mouton. She said, mimicry is the basis of understanding. So if you want to understand how another poet is doing what they're doing, it's okay to copy. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying go and plagiarize or nothing like that, but
Right.
there's another saying that says like mimicry is the best form of flattery. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so, yeah, that is a great way to advance your style and to even figure out what your style is. If you find yourself aligning with a certain poet's techniques, then you know your style, your voice is probably somewhere along those lines. You know, and okay,
Gems, young blood, we're dropping gems.
honestly, so people be soaking it up. But with all that being said, my boy Troy, please promote everything. I'm talking social media, any like projects that you're working on, things with TKM, promote it all. We'd love to hear it.
Sure. So thank you for giving me a platform to share a little bit. As we mentioned at the beginning, like my family runs TKM-The Kingdom Mission. You can find us online at TKM-Vision, vision.com. And you find kind of what we've been doing, what we're looking to do in the future, and kind of get a feel for our ministry and our family and what's up with that. So tkmvision.com. We've got ongoing projects around the world, partners around the world where we go and we visit them and we bless them and we give them English camp and train their youth and speak in front of their community groups on the weekends. And so this is just a global initiative, like building community partnerships, being a blessing in Beijing now. Us, where we don't do any ministry directly to Chinese, but just we live life and we shine the light of Christ to people there and let them know like there is power and there is love and there is forgiveness. As far as myself, I'm currently writing a sci-fi novel, and so this novel is part of a series I'm going to call Cordania 2120, and the first book's going to be called Titanium Dragon. And so I'm finishing drafting that this year. We'll go through the editing process in November, December, and hopefully early next year, till middle next year, I'll release it. So if you're interested in young adult fiction, you're interested in sci-fi, I'll be putting that out. I'll send Kendrick a link so that he can put it up if he wants on his Instagram and let you guys know about it. But yeah, I'm looking to bless people with that and kind of just give another perspective of who I am and kind of what's going on in me. And then lastly, there are lots of opportunities for us traveling and visiting people and doing projects. So if you have a conference you would like us to speak at, my wife is an excellent speaker, even better communicator than myself. She is fire and she is powerful and she's amazing. Our daughter also loves to get on the mic and sing and recite poetry and dance. Her name is Kendall Grace. If there are any like youth education trainings, we love to speak to the young people as educators. Like that's our heart, that's our passion, really, to train young people and inspire them. And then if there's any like corporate social responsibility programs that companies are like, hey, we need to give a certain portion, like can we partner with you and can you take our product or take our brand to Africa or to Southeast Asia or to Eastern Europe, like this, like those are stuff we love to do. And yeah, in October, first week of October, we'll be in Cape Town, South Africa. So if you're in the area, shoot me something on Instagram. I think a TKM Prof is PROF is my handle. But yeah, just appreciate you guys for listening and subscribing to this channel. Subscribe to this channel because there's great content. And yeah, he's here for his role, and we appreciate you, Kendrick, for just being a blessing to the community and elevating the game of poetry in the world.
Thank you so much, and thank you for joining today. All right, hope you have a wonderful day.